Hey guys, welcome. I'm glad you could come here and rest your feet. It's predominantly what this is. And you can learn something while you're resting your feet. So thank you for being here. Welcome to Coverings 2023. I was telling somebody earlier, I was doing the math, this is my 26th year consecutively, I believe, somewhere in there. Yeah, I'm older than I look. Bald spot gives it away though. So today we're here for something, for the next 20 minutes or so, we're going to talk about level desired, flat required. We all talk about level substrates or surface prep and having that flat floor. One of the things that we've seen over the kind of years where tiles have gotten bigger and bigger and bigger, right? I'll tell you, when I started in the industry back in 1988, 12 by 12 was the predominantly floor tile size that was being sold. And I remember when I packed an order for anything over a 12 by 12, it's like, man, this guy must be rich. 12 by 12's gone the way of the dodo bird and everything's large now. So what does that mean? That substrate needs to be flat, because for the installers that are here, I'll ask you, and I know my following me around now, is how many people have used thin set in the past to fix a low spot in the floor? We've all done it. Is that the right way to do it? No, that's not the right way to do it. There's less expensive ways and actually quicker ways to do it. And that's kind of what we're going to kind of spotlight one of our products here today that we're doing called Pro Patch Plus. But we're really going to talk about industry requirements, what the TCNA and the handbook, what their requirements are for methods, for tolerance methods or requirements, and things to go and things to help you and improve your installations. And what comes down to the very end is being able to make the most money that you can on a job, because sometimes that's pretty darn difficult. So with that being said, we'll go ahead and get started. I'm Brett Monty, technical manager for Merkrete. I'm based out of Chicago, but I handle the entire United States for Merkrete. So I'm the technical guy that typically gets to do these wonderful events and speaking to people and also working with the installers out in the field. So with that being said, what's a substrate? Types of substrates. Anything, the true definition is really any underlying surface that we're putting, for our case, a floor covering or a covering to. So whether it be a wall, a ceiling, a floor, that is a substrate. And then you can define down out of that is what types of substrates are there. We can go into cementitious, we can go into gypsum-based or gypcrete-based, cement boards, OSB, plywood. Those are all types of substrates that we're dealing with. And what is the one common thing, especially on concrete, what's the one common thing that we see that the concrete installer does not do? Never gives us a flat floor, do they? So it's our job as installers to come in and make the floor flat, or to make that floor the way it should be to meet those tolerances. So with that said, I use the word flat more than I do level, because level is not always a term that is, can you make a wall level? Really the word for that's plumb, right? You're making a plumb. Are you making a ceiling level? No, you're making it flat. We may not necessarily mean level. We need flat. For example, an ADA ramp, it needs to be flat at a certain pitch, but it doesn't need to be level. So I use the term level far more than I use flat, because just an example here, all of those are flat, but only one of them is level. If my PowerPoint's correct, it's level, but only one of them's level, everything else is flat. So we want flat. They may ask for level wanted, but it's flat required is really what we're looking for. So with that being said, here's one of the tolerances standards out of the NTCNA handbook. I've kind of done it over into my own verbiage. Makes it a little easier for me to understand. But basically, when you take a 10-foot straight edge, drop it down on the floor, and you see a variance, that variance for a 12 by 12 tile, or really a 15-inch tile and smaller, because that's the definition between a large format and a standard size tile, right? 15 inches on one side and smaller. So anything with a 15-inch one side and smaller, that's our tolerances required. So it's a 1/4 inch maximum on 10 feet. How often do we get that when we're walking in on a residential or commercial job that's on grade? Rarely. You're shaking your head no, but I'm sure you're shaking it all the time no. Rarely. So it's our job to fix that as manufacturers, giving you the products and the installers to be able to do that. So with that being said, it's also a 16th inch and 12, is that 16th on this one? Yeah, 16th and 12 variation from high to low. So It's in that 12 area. For a small area, it's even, the size even goes down more. So we're talking quarter inch variation. But how often are you guys installing a tile under 15 inches? Rarely. So now it jumps up. That's for large format tiles on a flat surface. Now that can be on a floor, wall, ceiling, anywhere else, okay? 1/8 inch and 10 feet. We never see that. That's the dodo bird right there. It's extinct. We have to make the floor go to that, because if you don't have that flat floor, what do we experience when you're installing that 12 by 24 or that plank tile? You push one edge down, it's the teeter-totter effect. You push one edge down, the other one pops up. It's hard enough that most of those rectangular tiles are bent or bellied in the middle, right? Now we got to make a floor flat and work with a bent tile. They're just making things more difficult for us. But if you look at that in that 12, it's a 16th and 24 on that. 16th and 24 inches, from the high point, no variance in that. So it's even a stronger stringent that we have to abide by to have that floor. So again, who's a commercial contractor in here? Anybody? No commercial contractors? I come from a commercial background, my father was, and I couldn't tell you how many times my dad walked into a general contractor and said, your floor's not flat enough. What do you think the GC's response was? We'll fix it then. Then it's my dad going back saying, well, this is going to be an upcharge. No, it's not. And then the argument starts from there. But we need that flat floor. So how do we get that flat floor? If you could start mixing, okay. So Dave up here is going to start mixing in the background, so it might get just loud for a moment. But if we don't have that flat floor, what do we end up with? Lippage, trip over it. That can be a hazard, can be a trip fall hazard. It's unsightly. Installation with waves. So if you're using a smaller tile and you don't flatten that floor, you guys ever been into an area where you see a long run of tile and it looks like this, maybe with a mosaic tile, really hugs to that conformity of the floor? It just copycats it. Improper water puddling. I don't know if the picture's in here anymore, but I had a shower that wasn't pitched correctly this is a kind of condensed version of my presentation. And you can see all the efflorescence around the shower drain because it wasn't draining. The water was just sitting there. And then you get shadowing, of course, as you see in the top left picture. And then improper mortar coverage can also cause a lot of that too. Okay, so what Dave's mixing up right here is our Pro Patch Plus. This is a 25-pound bag. We've had it out for about going on 10 years roughly. It's a very unique product. Does anybody use this product here? No? 25-pound bag. It is a hybrid patching and leveling compound. We never want to use this particular product to raise an entire floor. So let's say we need to move a floor 1/4 inch up. You would use a self-leveler for that, right? This is a patching compound that it's screedable, meaning that you'll see in a moment, you can take this product, drag your screed, and pull it right across. You don't have to touch it. Imagine a patching compound like that. We have other products out there, our competitor products, which are traditionally, you have to flat trowel them smooth, right? We have one of those in the AL1. We'll talk about that in a few minutes. But this product, all you're going to do, take it, mix it up. You'll see how fluid this product is. You can actually take a screed, we'll show you, drag the screed across it, or you can flat trowel. But the nice thing about it is, because it, like a self-leveler, it does have a self-healing tendency to it. So when you pick that trowel up out of it, it actually heals back in on itself, and I don't have to touch it. The only thing you might have to do, depending on how fast you mixed it, or if it's a real porous substrate, you're gonna get little pin bubbles coming up, is you might have to take your flat trowel and just knock those down like you would a self-leveler. But otherwise, it's a pour, screed, or flat trowel and walk away from it. The only time you need to touch it after that is if it is, let's say, I call them bird baths or a pooled area, is you might have to come back and just feather the edges down a little bit, but that's it. We've got labor-intensive products. This is completely opposite of that. This is a product that literally just pours out, self-heals, push it where you need it to go. Again, it's not used to raise a floor. It's just used to fix those ups and downs and the little undulations in that surface to be able to meet those tolerances that the TCNA requirements are. So you good, Dave? Okay. So Dave's going to, first off, he's going to pour it on this side first. Just so you guys can see, and I don't know if anybody wants to come up and take a look at it. I can't get too close to the speakers, otherwise they give me feedback. He's going to pour it onto there, and I will start passing this around if you guys want to look. That's the dried form of it, untouched. So he's pouring that out. Have you ever seen a patching compound? And I don't want to name names of other competitive products out there that's that fluid. Typically you're having to pull them out, trowel them out, and then flatten them. Again, we have that product as well. But this is a very unique product in the sense that, hand me the trowel. If you can see this, I can actually take that, run that through, and it self-heals right back on it. So imagine if you had a flat trowel, and I'm taking this and just pushing that around to get it to where I need it.
The flat trowel?
No, that's all right. It self-heals back on itself. So there's really no labor to this product. I'm pushing it, I'm taking a flat trowel and pushing it wherever I need to do it. You can go ahead and do the setup for the screed side too. I've got another one of these boards I can pass around too on this side of the room. So again, PSI after this product's cured is about a little over 3,000 PSI. It's a super strong product. It is modified. We don't need a primer for this product unless you're going over what we consider a contaminated floor or a floor that has not been super clean or not porous. Okay. Do you see with Dave here taking the screed? Then pick it up, Dave, and show it just dripping back into it. You see it dripping back into it? It's just going to back into it. Now, after about 10 minutes, it's not going to do that. It's going to lose that self-healing because it does dry quick. In most cases, this will dry in 45 minutes or so, and I'm walking on it. Now, if you are putting a resilient type of floor or encapsulating over the top of it, you're going to have to wait for it to completely dry. It'll go from a darker gray to like the sample that's being passed around to a lighter gray. We just don't want to trap any moistures. For ceramic tile or stone applications, this product, once you're walking on it, you can install on top of it. You can use it, you can go over it in a sense as we consider what's green. Anybody want to come up and look at it, touch it while it's still fluid? See it, play it, touch it, smell it, lick it? Yes, yeah. He was asking if you can use a spider roller on it. I don't know if you guys are into porcupine rollers is what we call them in the South. It's a roller with spikes. You can roll it to release the little bubbles of the pinholes on top instead of flat trowel. You can use wonder trowels on it as well. Okay, so we got that. We'll go back to the presentation. All right, so within this, in our surface prep and getting that floor flat, we've got our SLU, which is our self-leveling underlayment. We've got our product called Underlay C, which is a modified or polymer modified mud bed. 50-pound bag. It's a very fine aggregate, so it's not what you're used to seeing in typical mud beds. And then on top of that, it is polymer modified. You can build that up from an 1/8 inch up to 3 inches thick in one single application. We've also got it in a rapid set, which is RS, Underlay RS. So it's a rapid set version, cures in roughly 4 hours. We've got Pro Patch Plus, which you just saw here, and we've got the AL1. AL1 is another unique product. When I came up with this product, I had a manufacturer that was carrying, again, it was another brand of from us, not from us, but from a competitor. And typically when you're using these patching compounds and you're going over a vinyl, let's say you're embossing over a vinyl, or you're going over an OSB or a wood substrate, a lot of those manufacturers, not all of them, but a lot of them require that you add a latex to the product. So instead of just water. So if you were using it over clean concrete or a clean porous surface, you're gonna mix this with just water. Just same thing with the Pro Patch Plus. If you're going over a wood substrate or a substrate that is not your typical substrates, you're gonna need to add latexes to it. The customer I was dealing with basically said, I want one product that I don't have to add a latex to. Hence that product. That product's called AL1, all-in-one. So that has so much polymer load in it that when you go to mix this product, you ever put flour and milk and it just sits on top of it and you got to stir and stir and stir until it finally gets in there? It's kind of like this. You pour this product over the water, it sits on top of it, you put your blade in it, you mix the product. After about 30 seconds of mixing, it actually hits that sweet spot and then comes out and it's a nice smooth product. It is not a self-healing product. It is not a product like this. It's when you will have to flat trowel to smooth it out and to get it where it needs. It dries super fast. Roughly, if it's not out of the bucket in about 10 to 15 minutes, you'll be selling boat anchors down at the nearest harbor. Not for the weak at mind, hence that's why it's in a 10-pound box. If we had it in a 25-pound, then it would just be a mess. So Again, AL1 is a really neat product, simply that we don't have to add a latex to it because it has everything built into it. So that's a really unique product. For distributors, it's great because it's a single product without having that additional SKU. For the contractor, it's a nice product because it's a single product. If you're sending guys out into the field, you don't have to send them with a latex and a 10-pound box. You're sending them with one product and one product only to do that. All right, so finishing up here, do's and don'ts. Do. Check substrates to make sure they meet or the required TCNA requirements for flatness or tolerances. Okay, again, I'm going to use that word flat, not level. Make sure wood or non-back substrates meet deflection values. Those of you that are contractors, how many of you guys have twinkle toes when you walk in on a brand new job? I live in Chicago, so everything's above grade. Everything's over basements. So all the contractors there walk on their tippy toes. And you'd think something weird, but they're walking in, and how many of you guys done this? You walk in on a wood substrate and you're doing this. What are you doing? You're checking to see if there's deflection in that floor. Is that the proper way to measure for it? Absolutely not. There's a L over 360, and there's a whole way that we do this, measurements for it, which we can talk about at a prior time. But we want to make sure there's no deflections in that floor. We as a manufacturer can make thin set bend. We can make grout bend a little bit, but the one thing you cannot make bend is tile. So if you've got deflection in that floor, what's going to happen? You're going to end up with cracked grout joints or cracked tiles or pop tiles. Use appropriate products for flattening and smoothing, okay? We have to say that because I've seen some guys using some things out there trying to flat trowel or spread or using, the 2x4 that's warped as a straight edge. Use a straight edge or screed to do that. Use appropriate methods provided by TCNA. That's probably the most important bullet point up there because those methods are provided for a reason. Who here is familiar with the TCNA handbook? Okay, there should be a lot more people familiar with that handbook. And the reason I'm laughing and smile because Mr. TCNA is sitting right there. So that book right there doesn't tell you how to do the job, but it tells you what's expected of you as a contractor to do the job. And if you do it per TCNA methods, when it comes down to the floor, the tolerances, the floor flatness, as well as the installation or the type of method that you're following to use that, we're not guaranteeing you're going to do it right, but your success is going to be far greater. Because I'll always ask this, who likes callbacks? Raise your hand. That's funny. I do that with my installer. Oh, he loves callbacks. Second job. Not if you're not getting paid for it. Make sure the substrate meets ANSI A108.01. I'm missing the O in there on that. So that's basically what the general contractors, the industry is requiring the general contractor to provide. Use a primer with self-levelers. That's very important. I'd say as long as I've been in this industry, I've never seen a self-leveler that does not require a primer. Do you know why primers are so important with self-levelers? I got a one head shake. There's 3 reasons that I'm going to give. Pro source. 3 reasons I'm going to give. One is a primer helps with flow. If you pour a primer out on a floor and it does, or if you pour a self-leveler out on a floor and there's no primer, it's going to flow, but not that great. If you have a primer down, it's going to flow easier to make the installation or pushing it around using your screed rake to do that. Second is it helps with a chemical bond. So we're actually achieving a better bond between the 2 substrates or between the 2 products, the substrate and the self-leveler. But also too is with self-levelers, we as manufacturers want them to dry one way, and we want them to dry through evaporation out the top of it. If we go over a porous substrate without a primer, it's going to pull moisture in and also evaporate out the top, causing a weaker self-leveler in that instance. So self-levelers are typically part of the warranty with SLUs. And I can tell you right now as a manufacturer, if you look at our SLU cells versus our primer cells, they don't match up. It's typically this big of a difference because primers just aren't being used. For my opinion, for $12, use a primer. Even when in doubt, use a primer. Okay, follow product manufacturer's instructions. I can't say that enough because my products might mix with a different amount of water than XYZ's products. And we get that a lot where I'm used to mixing there, so I'm just going to use the same amount of water or mix it to feel or mix it to, that pancake or peanut butter consistency. Follow the instructions because as a manufacturer, we have made these products and tested these products per the recommendations on the back of that bag. And that's, if you want 3,000 PSI or better with this product, you need to mix it with 3 quarts of water. Not 3.5, not 2.5. You're gonna change the consistency of that product. Now, don'ts. Assume the builder supplied you with a perfect substrate. Notice that's the first one up there. Think the CBUs will fix deflection. CBU is my basically abbreviation for cement backer units. Raise your hand if you think, I'll use Hardy Backer because it's up here, and I'm not picking on Hardy Backer at all. But if I put Hardy Backer down on a floor or Wonderboard or any of these other cement board products, will they help with deflection? Good, I'm seeing no's in there. Because I get that argument a lot where people are going, they're doing the more circle because they're not sure. And to make sure now is, no, they will not. They will copycat it. I always say this, if I can hand my 88-year-old mother a 3x5 quarter-inch Hardy Backer and she can bend it over her knee, there's no structural integrity to that product. So CBUs will not fix deflection in a floor. Don't. Use adhesive mortars for filling voids. That's the first thing I asked, right? Who used a mortar to fix those little bird baths? I raised my hand because I've done it in the past too. Is that proper? No. Is that the right way to do it? Absolutely not. Guess water product ratios. That whole, yep, looks like 4 quarts to me. Measure, use measuring buckets. I know for my products, I've got buckets and buckets and buckets. Do you have a measuring bucket? I've got 5 quart buckets, but I've got these measuring buckets that I get at the big orange store, and they all have a piece of tape on them, and they have the manufacturer written on them, and they all have a hole drilled in the side of it at a certain height. And that is where I basically I refer to them as monkey buckets, but those are where I can hand it to anybody and say, hey, go mix me up a bag of grout, or go mix me up a bag of Pro Patch. Grab the Pro Patch Plus bucket. He grabs it, puts it on a level surface, not the driveway, puts it on a level surface, fills it up to water, pours out, pour the water in, mix it up, we're good to go. Okay, so measure your water for all manufacturers, for all products. The higher, or the products that we're now starting to produce as manufacturers out there are very high performance products. That water ratio is extremely important when mixing those products. And don't bond to unsuitable substrates. Unsuitable substrates are going to be that you pulled up an old VCT floor, you've got that old black VCT residue, cutback residue down on the floor. We have products that will bond to that if you scrape away the top of it, just leaving the residue behind. But there's going to be special things that might be needed to add to those products to be able to bond to it. So don't try to bond to unsuitable substrates. Is Luan a suitable substrate? Luans are what doors are made out of, the hollow core doors. No, it is not. You get those things wet, they'll potato chip on you like crazy. So just pay attention to that, follow the instructions, and more than anything, use us manufacturers. If you've got questions on the jobs, all of our bags, if you're using our products or anybody else's, there's an 800 number typically on the back of it. Use it. When in doubt, call somebody. So if anybody wants to come up and take a look at these, you're more than welcome to. You saw the samples being passed around. Those are the finished products to it. I appreciate your time. We'll be here cleaning up for a few minutes. If you guys have questions, please come talk to us. Our booth is right there with a big yellow Sika umbrella right above it. We've got a lot more other things that we didn't talk about. Just to finish that up. Oh, you know what? Do I have like 1 or 2 minutes? Anybody ever seen this? Dave, I'm going to need you for this. Dustless. We carry the patent for dustless. Okay? I'm going to give you that one. Okay, so we're going to shake these up. You ever take a bag of thin set, you take it, pour it into a bucket, and you get this big giant plume that comes out the top of it, right? What if you didn't have that anymore? Wouldn't that be pretty cool? So we're going to go ahead and shake and open. That's dustless. We carry the patent on this. 85% of the products that we manufacture right now are dustless. We're eventually going to get to about 99% of our products. Some of them we just can't do because of raw materials, but they are going to be dustless. With that being said, we still want to recommend that you wear the proper OSHA approved mask because there's still silica present in these products. If you're using whale tails, continue to mix it if you're using a dustless product of ours. But what this really does for us is it makes the product creamier, smoother, easier application, less water, cleans your tools up a lot easier. But on the job site, more importantly, if it's a rainy day, you're mixing outside, next thing you know, you got to move into the garage and start mixing, and you're next to Miss Smith's Mercedes, you're keeping that dust down. If you're commercial installers, there's always that one poor schlub over in the corner, and all he does is mix all day long, and he looks like that Charlie Brown character with the big cloud above his head. You no longer get that with our dustless product. So really unique invention for us, really unique. Like I said, we've got the patent for this. This is our product and our product only. Also too, last but not least, all of our products are slake free. If you guys aren't familiar with slake, slaking, everybody knows what slaking means? You mix it, you walk away, go call your girlfriend, fiance, mistress, call all three, I don't care. Then you come back and remix it. With our products, that's gone. We have a polymer that we use that disperses immediately. You mix a product and use the product, including our grouts. So if there's any questions, please come up and ask us. Like I said, our booth's right there, but we're going to clean up so the next guys can get up on stage. Thank you very much.